Rain hammered the steel hull of the submarine B-59. Inside, water seeped through the seams. Outside, American destroyers circled. The date was October 27, 1962, deep in the heart of the Cuban Missile Crisis. A storm of decision raged in the minds of three men. One of them said yes to launching a nuclear torpedo. The other said no. The no stopped World War III. That man was Vasily Arkhipov, a lieutenant colonel of the Soviet Navy, second in command of the submarine. He refused to consent to a nuclear attack, even when orders, pressure, fear, and confusion bore down on him. He held the line. He stopped the trigger from being pulled. And in that moment, the world teetering on the edge did not fall. Here's how a submarine officer in a tiny, claustrophobic vessel prevented the unimaginable and then lived almost unacknowledged. What led him there? Why did his no matter more than thousands of missiles? And why is his story still so little told, despite the stakes being so high? The Cold War world of 1962 looked like this. Two superpowers, one ideological, one military, locked in a stare-down. The United States and the Soviet Union possessed enough nuclear weapons to vaporize entire cities in seconds. Tracking systems, ready to launch submarines, bombers on alert, the machinery of apocalypse. In the summer of 1962, the Soviets secretly placed nuclear-armed missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the U.S. coast. The U.S. discovered them and declared a naval blockade war loomed. Arkhipov was born on January 30th, 1926, in Zvorkovo, Moscow Oblast. He joined the Soviet Navy after serving during and after World War II, rising through the ranks to become a submarine officer. On board B-59, he served as the executive officer. He had seen submarine warfare's high-stakes submarine world. He knew how everything could go wrong. In October 1962, the submarine B-59, part of a flotilla near Cuba, lost contact with Moscow. They were deep under pressure. The U.S. Navy above was dropping signaling depth charges to force B-59 to surface. Two officers on board believed war had already started. The captain and the political officer wanted to launch their nuclear torpedo. The third man, Arkhipov, hesitated. He insisted they surface, make contact, verify orders. The tension inside the hull skyrocketed, and then the moment arrived. In the cramped, hot submarine, they took the vote required under Soviet protocol. All three officers had to agree. 2 votes for yes. Arkhipov's no stopped the launch. The submarine surfaced. Tense negotiations followed. The world continued. But just when you think the crisis has passed, there's a twist. What if Arkhipov had not resisted? What if the torpedo had launched? The U.S. would have retaliated. A nuclear exchange might have erupted within minutes. Touching off World War III, the world would look very different today. Deep plunge, cold corridors, alarms flashing. That's how the rising action unfolds. On October 27, 1962, B-59 dived in international waters near Cuba. Communication with Moscow had failed. Outside, U.S. destroyers USS Beale, USS Clark, USS Coney dropped signaling depth charges to force the submarine up. The crew interpreted them as attacks. Morale cracked. Oxygen ran low. The submarine's temperature soared past 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. But what they didn't know was how the Soviet command structure functioned under extreme stress. Each submarine carried a 10-kiloton nuclear torpedo, comparable to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. One launch could begin a multi-continental war. Arkhipov knew this. Then something unexpected happened. Amidst the panic, Arkhipov challenged the captain's decision. He argued, "We have no orders from Moscow. We don't know it's war." He insisted they surface first, try to make contact. Meanwhile, the captain pressed ahead. The political officer urged permission. 2 votes said go, 1 said hold. Protocol demanded unanimous consent. The stalemate lasted, seconds which felt like years. Secondary mysteries rise. Did Moscow know what was happening? Were the US destroyers really signaling or trying to force a face-off? What covert orders existed? The crew's air supply dwindled. The reactor's cooling system strained. The pressure hull moaned. Every heartbeat echoed the possibility of extinction. Archipov's calm refusal tilted the axis. He convinced the captain. The torpedo wasn't launched. The submarine surfaced. The US fleet above sighed. The crisis receded. At that moment, the Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev and the US President John F. Kennedy arranged a deal. USSR withdrew missiles from Cuba. US pledged not to invade. The world exhaled. But behind the scenes in that dingy submarine, Arkhipov had carried the fate of nations on his shoulders. The climax was both silent and shattering. In the control room of B-59, the 10-kiloton nuclear torpedo lay ready. The analog gauges glowed red. Outside, destroyers thumped. Inside, the captain shouted, "Launch!" The political officer yelled, "Yes!" Arkhipov sat at his station. He weighed the options. He thought of his crew, 20 men in a steel tube deep underwater. He thought of the superpowers above. He thought of the unknown. What if the system misfed them false readings? On October 27, 1962, at approximately 7 p.m., Arkhipov declared, "We surface." That declaration prevented the torpedo launch. He referenced their lack of communication with Moscow. He demanded confirmation. He held the safety chain. Across the ocean, American forces were unaware. The world kept spinning. Millions woke the next morning. Cities bustled. But the war plan had been canceled in a steel hull under the sea. The emotional peak. Imagine being that man. Imagine knowing that one decision might mean billions of lives. The fear, the heat, the pressure, the sonar pinging. Arkhipov did not run. He resisted. He saved. When the submarine surfaced, the US fleet held position. No nuclear flash, no retaliation. The Cold War cooled marginally. The biggest war that never happened receded from public memory. Archipov's name remained obscure. He never sought fame. He never got medals for that moment. He carried the burden silently to his retirement in the 1980s, passing away on August 19, 1998. The stakes were nothing less than survival of civilization. In the aftermath, Archipov's act had deep historical impact. The Cuban Missile Crisis ended without nuclear war. Because of that, the doctrine of mutually assured destruction remained a deterrent rather than reality. Archipov's no helped preserve peace, yet his story, the man who saved the world, remained underreported in the Soviet Union and worldwide. Why was he forgotten? Cold War secrecy, Soviet culture of collective achievement instead of individual heroism. His action didn't fit into conventional narratives of glory or conquest. It was restraint. That made it invisible for years. Today, as nuclear arsenals still exist and tensions rise in areas from Eastern Europe to East Asia, Archipov's example resonates. It reminds us that one person's decision can tip the scale between survival and catastrophe. In arenas of drone warfare, cyber attacks, and automated weapons, the human element still matters. So when you next hear about global flashpoints, think of the man in the submarine, Think of oxygen running out. Think of the world still turning, because he chose no. If you found this story compelling, consider subscribing and exploring more hidden moments in history where one choice changed everything.